Good morning, class. As you know, we've started our book club this week. The first book in our text set is called The Giver by Lois Lowry. As we begin reading chapter 1, you will come across a few vocabulary words that you are unfamiliar with. In order to practice these words and learn how to pronounce them, we are going to participate in a strategy for decoding these words. I will discuss this strategy on the next slide. The decoding strategy that I have selected for us to use to decode our unfamiliar vocabulary words from chapter 1 in The Giver is a mnemonic known as BEST. B, break the word apart. E, examine each part. S, say each part. T, try the whole thing in context. On the next slide, we will practice this strategy with our newly discovered vocabulary words. Let's begin by using the BEST strategy to break apart the two vocabulary words found on pages 4 and 5 of chapter 1. The first word has been broken down into 4 parts. So our first step is to break apart the words. The second step is to examine each part. As we examine each part, we see that the first part is AP, which says app. The second part, PRE, we know says pre. The third part, HEN, we sound that out, it says hen. The fourth part, SIVE, we know says sieve. So we've said each part, app, pre, hen, sieve. Try the whole thing in context. We know the word says apprehensive, which means nervous or uneasy of something. Let's try the BEST strategy with our second word. We've broken the second word down into 3 parts. Now we're going to examine each part. The first part is DE, which we know says D. The second part, FI, if we look closely, we see that there is another vowel following that I. Therefore, the I makes the long vowel sound I. So the second part says fi. The third part, ANT, we sound that out, it says ant. So if we say each part, D, fi, ant. Now try the whole thing in context. The word is defiant, which means disobedient or rebellious. Let's try the BEST strategy again for vocabulary words found on pages 6 and 7 on the next slide. Now let's try the BEST strategy with the 2 vocabulary words found on pages 6 and 7 of The Giver. Our first word, we're going to break down into 3 different parts. Now we're going to examine each part. The first part, PON, we know says pon. The second part, DER, we know says der. The third part, the suffix ED, we know says ed. So we say each part, pon, der, d. Now we're going to try the whole thing in context. Pondered, which means to think about something. Now let's try our second word from page 7. We're going to break this word down into 4 different parts. Now let's examine each part. The first part, dis, is a prefix that we know says dis. The second part, po, we know says po. The third part, si, we know says z. The fourth part, the suffix tion, we already know says shun. So let's say each part. Dis, po, z, shun. Now we're going to try the whole thing. Disposition, which means someone's temperament or mentality about something. Now that we have used the best decoding strategy to learn 4 new vocabulary words in Chapter 1, let's practice reading these words in their context. The first word, apprehensive. Now we can read the sentence. Apprehensive, Jonas decided. That's what I am. Meaning he was nervous. Our second word that was found on page 5 is defiant. Let's read the sentence that goes with this word. She held up a clenched fist, and the rest of the family smiled at her defiant gesture. Meaning that by clenching her fist, she made a rebellious, disobedient gesture. On page 6, our word was pondered. Do you think it's possible that he felt strange and stupid being in a new place with rules that he didn't know about? Lily pondered that. Yes, she said, finally, meaning she thought about it and decided that yes, he did feel strange and stupid. On page 7, our word was disposition. He's a sweet little male with a lovely disposition, meaning that he had a sweet, lovely mentality. Very good, guys. You did a great job helping me decode our 4 new vocabulary words found in Chapter 1 of The Giver.